Snowfall returns for season 5 on Wednesday, February 23rd. We have two of the stars, Damson Idris and Angela Lewis, here to join me to chat a little bit about the season premiere. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk with me today.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Angela, let's go ahead and start with you. Talk a little bit about the fan reaction, because Aunt Louie got shot at the end of season 4, and I'm sure there was a strong commitment, from the fans to say something.
Yes, there was an outrage, and I'm so grateful for it, because I think everybody was as shocked as I was when I read it. Like, what's gonna happen? No, not Louie. So I'm glad I made it through.
We are glad.
The fans were glad too.
And the fans were glad too. There would have been an uproar right there if there's something worse would have happened.
Yes.
Damson, let's go ahead and talk a little bit. We're in the summer of 1986. Damson, tell us a little bit about what we're going to be seeing and what the journey is going to be like for Franklin in this new season.
Well, this season starts 15 months after season 4. And the crew are just making a lot of money. This season is about just how crazy the money got in 1986 once this drug really came into effect. Aunt Louie and Jerome are riding horses. That's a long way from their little house in South Central. And Franklin has this huge penthouse. He has a new committed relationship, has a baby on the way, is trying to go legit with his real estate business. But of course, the increase in police brutality, the war on drugs, has fueled great animosity this season. And I think the fans are in for a shock. They're going to be torn, but above all things, they're going to be entertained.
There was an interview that I saw with the late John Singleton that he said if all these things didn't happen in the 80s, that he would not have had the career that he had in the 90s and with Boys in the Hood. Talk a little bit about what that means and, some of his influence and how he's still being, his legacy is still there on the show. Damson, go ahead and start.
Well, I feel Singleton was brilliant at shining a lens on that culture. He would always say to me, the happenings of the 80s had a huge influence on pop culture. We often look at the negative of it, but we also need to look at the positive of it and how it influenced music, fashion, film, TV, everything. So I think Singleton was a great pioneer in seeing that it could be fruitful for the future to show this history.
And what about for you, Angela?
Yeah, well, he always says, write your own story. You know what I mean? And so you always pull from what you pull from, it's organic, it's your life, and everybody's story is valid and valuable. And so we take, the dark and the ugly and the maybe negative experiences of our lives, and we turn it into something beautiful. We turn it into our voice being, upheld and having a megaphone for that voice, because there are other people out there who are living that same experience, and everybody's story needs to be heard. So thank God, John told his story so that we can all see ourselves.
Any change the culture, any change movies and history, from that point on. So we love him for that.
Absolutely. Yes,
and let's talk a little bit about the positive as well too. I mean, you both mentioned, the music and the clothes, from the 80s and how that's influenced. And obviously there's people who grew up in the 80s that are, rewatching this and, seeing it from a different lens. But there's also that younger generation who weren't around, who are almost seeing this as a history. I hate to date myself, but almost as like a history lesson. Let's talk a little, Damson, let's go ahead and start with you. As far as the fashion and the music that we hear on the show, is there anything that you have a new appreciation for, or a new artist that you're like, oh yeah, these were, this really, this band or this artist really made the 80s, or a certain, fashion that you get to wear?
Well, a Cutie Pie, I can't remember who made this song. Cutie Pie, you're the reason why. Or the bars, it's mostly the slow songs that affect me on the show. I was always a fan of Nina Simone, but I love the show for that. Music is definitely what I take from the show and how I get my history lesson with the times. What they were talking about, they were reflecting the times. And Nina Simone says the artist's job is to reflect the times. And that's what our show does through the music. We often kind of show violence, but then play an amazing song over it. Like in season 2, I was getting beat up I was getting jumped to Lovely Day. Like that's, you just don't see that. And it's obviously not a lovely day.
That's the opposite of a lovely day, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I'm loving it. That's what the show does. So for me personally, it's definitely the music that I take away from
I don't know. It's always like a flashback back to like my family time, with all the songs. And it's always like, oh, you rocking out and like jamming. I don't have a favorite. I just know I love the listening experience as I'm watching the show.
That jamming out.
I think for me, it's fashion.
For fashion, was there any particular, fashion or style or anything that you are particularly loving in this new season?
members only jackets.
I don't know. I think for me, it's the way we are able to really love on the 80s without the huge shoulder pads. Because shoulder pads were a lot.
Exactly. That is amazing. And I think I have a kindergarten picture with me with the members only jacket on it. And at some point in the closet, luckily, social media wasn't around at that point, but I know it exists at some place.
I'm bringing it back. Don't worry.
Exactly. We're bringing it back. You did mention as far as, Angela, the music kind of bringing you back to that time. And that's the way that I felt during the big game here on Sunday is all, hearing Dr. Dre and Eminem and Mary J and getting that feeling. I mean, but, Damson, I do want to ask you, you posted some photos. You were hanging out with Rihanna. She's going to be a new mom. I mean, how cool was it to see the game with her? What does she say as far as, expecting her first child?
Yeah, she said she's going to name the baby Damsonella, which I think is huge honor. No, I love those guys, man. I was obviously a huge fan of them before I met them personally. But just to watch history in a historical moment, I'll never forget that. It's really cool watching Jay-Z rap to Still Dre, and you're behind him and you're rapping it too, and you're like, this is a weird. I shouldn't be here right now. And we're eating jerk chicken and Jamaican food. But that halftime show was amazing. And it's a testament to LA culture. It's a testament to how much the city has brought to the world. It was amazing.
It's amazing. And we can't wait for season 5, Snowfall, premiering on Wednesday, February 23rd. Angela, Damson, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.